Hi, everybody, and happy holidays from New Orleans. This is Chris Waddington. I'm a reporter and a writer in New Orleans for the Time-Picayune, NOLA.com. I have a family tradition. I like to read a story when we gather for holiday meals. And this year I changed the tradition a little. I wrote a story, an original story, and we're going to read it to you now. It's called The Last Christmas Tree on the Lot. On Christmas Eve, the wind switched to the north, an all-day roar from Lake Pontchartrain that whistled through the bare apartment, rattled the louvers, slipped under the balcony's sliding glass door, and swayed the curtains with every gust. If Santa is coming, he'll feel right at home, thought the boy. He warmed his fingers over the stovetop. All 4 gas burners were going. Somebody had been cooking in the apartment downstairs, and the rising aromas reminded him of the lunch he had gobbled so many hours ago. His feet were cold, his nose ran. His mother had been gone since noon, and the view out the kitchen window matched the boy's mood. Flags whipped above the quick-stop gas pumps. Trash skittered over the darkened parking lot, rolling past a cinder-block thrift shop, a nail salon, a chicken shack, and a bar with frost and snowflakes sprayed on the windows. A Christmas tree lot had set up down there in November. The boy's mother wouldn't be home for hours. That's how it works, Mama had explained before leaving. She was new at her job, so she got the holiday shifts. Then Mama had opened her purse and counted out $10 in singles. You've been asking about a Christmas tree? Well, you're going to buy one this afternoon when the prices come down. Can you handle that now that you've turned 11? The boy had thrown his shoulders back to stand taller, but that didn't make much of a difference. He was short for his age, the shortest kid in his class, and even in his big winter coat, a hand-me-down from the shelter, the kid looked thin as a sapling. His mother took notice and counted out 5 more $1 bills, leaving herself just enough for bus fare. That's for lunch, you hear me? Get that fried chicken you like. That's your Christmas treat. And when you go to the tree lot, don't dream too big. This isn't for the White House lawn, although it feels about as cold here in the apartment. Mama had ruffled his hair and smiled. The boy hadn't wanted to spend the day alone, but he'd felt excited, picturing the tree, how he'd decorate it with strung popcorn like Mama had taught him, how he'd hang those thrift store lights. And of course, he'd thought about how good that fried chicken would taste. So get a small tree, Mama had reminded him as she left for the bus stop. Something your height. There's always a few trees left at the end. They practically give them away. But don't wait until dark. That's too late for you to be out there. What should I do with the rest of the day? The boy asked. Mama had thrown her head back and let loose with her Santa Claus laugh. Try to keep warm and keep out of trouble, she said. Keeping warm and out of trouble had not proved easy. The day had been a long one, long enough for some mischief, and now, by the blue light of the stovetop flames, the boy did his accounting in misery. A trip to the thrift store for Mama's gift, a Saints scarf, $2. A video game at the gas station, $1. Fried chicken, red beans, and a Coke, $4. A return trip for bread pudding, $1. Surely Mama would understand all of that. He had stopped at the tree stand a little too early. Business had slowed, and only a handful of trees remained on the lot. No bargains yet, the salesman had said. Come back in a couple of hours. Would Mama blame him for that? Could she understand why he had run back to the drafty apartment, crawled into bed, and fallen asleep with the TV droning? He had climbed into bed to keep warm, and his dreams had been wonderful. A long walk through a summer forest, aisles of tall pines, a single bird singing, and the sweet scent of balsam on the breeze. When he woke, it was dark. He jumped from bed, threw on his coat, and felt for the tree money. It was gone. The pocket where he had carefully stuffed the last $7 held only a candy cane, a gift from the thrift shop ladies. He'd been saving it to hang on the Christmas tree. The boy searched the apartment. Bare rooms made that a quick job. He looked up and down the apartment stairs and suddenly grew afraid that his mother would be home soon. Outside, the wind was roaring as wildly as ever. The clouds were gone, the stars were out, but in the dark there was no hope of finding the cash. Had he dropped those bills at the gas station? At the chicken shop? At the thrift store? All 3 businesses were closed for the holiday. Only the tree lot was open, a makeshift chain-link fence, a speaker wheezing carols, a few strands of white bulbs blinking under the floodlights at the end of the parking lot. The same attendant was there, a middle-aged man in stained red coveralls and thin-soled office shoes. The boy stood in the shadows and watched him sweep the lot. "We're closed," the man said. "But I need a tree," the boy croaked. "My mama sent me." "We closed the register. The boss just left." With that, the boy stepped farther into the light. "I don't have any money, mister. I think the wind snatched it out of my pocket." The attendant snorted. "I know about that wind, boy. It's been pulling money out of my pocket for years. You'll get used to it, too. It's your Christmas lesson. Now go home to your mama and let me sweep up. I have some big plans for tonight." "Mama's at work. She asked me to get the tree. We live over there." The man studied the sagging apartment building for a moment. "Well, it's no fun to work on Christmas Eve." "Let me work," the boy begged. "Can't I help you sweep up?" "The boss wouldn't like that. Insurance risk." "But the boss isn't here." The sweeper shook his head and pointed to 3 security cameras, one on the shack, one at the gate, one near the back by the dumpster. "I'll work for a tree," the boy pleaded. "You can get home sooner." The attendant stopped, still holding the broom, and he spoke in an angry voice. "I'm not going home tonight. I'm going to eat dinner at that bar over there. And didn't you notice there aren't any trees left? Look around, for Pete's sake. You think I have some big old spruce tree hidden behind the shack? We sold the last tree an hour ago." "All gone?" "All but one, and of course you're too late to get it. That tree is in the dumpster, kid. You wouldn't have wanted it. Trust me, it looked like—" The attendant didn't finish the thought. The tree in the dumpster looked just like the boy, spindly, sad, about the last thing anyone might want to see on Christmas. "Just get out of here, kid, and don't bother to ask. I'm not climbing into a dumpster on Christmas Eve." Misery pursued the boy and the man. While one stood at the kitchen stove warming his hands, the other tried to warm himself at the bar. The prospect of Mama's grim face chilled the boy, but the man's fear was greater, if unacknowledged. What might happen if his frozen heart ever thawed? In the bar, he wouldn't let anything touch him. Not the tinsel and lights that covered the room, not the blinking Christmas tree in the corner, not the sound of jingle bells booming from the jukebox. He even rejected the kindly smile of the bartender who limped and chattered with a Santa cap tipped jauntily on his head. It was just the 2 of them that night, and the man from the tree stand was full of complaints. He hated the weather. His car was dying. His ex-wife had sent him a Christmas card with the news that she had remarried. "This so-called holiday comes around way too often for me," the man said. The bartender chuckled. "Everything comes around way too often at my age." The bartender was an agreeable sort, and he understood that sympathy was part of his job. He tidied the bar and listened as his customer turned to the latest outrage, the boy who had detained him at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve. "Some damned song and dance while I'm standing there with pine needles in my socks, cold enough to be at the North Pole, and the kid asks me, 'Can I help you sweep up, mister? I don't have no money.' And he worked me hard, too, pretending that the wind blew his cash down the street. He wanted the last tree after hours, like I could just do that, with the boss's camera recording everything. And the tree, it was the ugliest thing. It belonged where I put it." "You didn't give the tree away?" The bartender had stopped polishing the glass in his hand. He looked at his customer and saw that all his rage had turned in on himself. It was in the dumpster already," he mumbled. "And what happened to the kid?" "Gone home, I guess. He said he lived in that dumpy apartment building at the end of the block." "Well, Christmas is different for children. A tree isn't just decoration," the bartender said. The man from the tree lot laughed bitterly. "You think I don't know that? I was a kid once, but what am I now?" A few weeks ago, he wouldn't have asked the question. A job was a job, after all. He'd been laid off and taken the gig at the tree lot because he needed the money, even if it meant selling blue spruce to idiots. But the tree lot had gotten the best of him. He hadn't been sleeping well, he explained to the bartender. Sometimes the sound of cash registers woke him at 3 a.m. He swiped credit cards in his dreams. He'd grown weary of wishing Merry Christmas to angry fathers, complaining mothers, and children who squabbled over video games. He was weary of measly tips. Even his sweet dreams were strange to him. A long walk through a summer forest, aisles of tall pines, a single bird singing, and the sweet scent of balsam on the breeze. "Oh, it's a sad holiday if you have to work," the bartender said. He poured 2 drinks. "I know," said the tree man. "Don't listen to me. You've got it worse, even if this place is nice and toasty." Both men fell silent, and so did the jukebox. In truth, the cocktails were starting to do their work. The quiet was blissful, a moment at the heart of the hour when no words were necessary. The man from the tree lot studied his crumpled face in the bar mirror and wondered what he would look like next Christmas. Then he was crying, and he didn't bother to wipe at the tears. "Don't mind me," he said. "I'll be okay in a minute." But he wasn't okay. He was thinking about that happy dream, the long walk in the forest. He wished he could go back there again. He wanted to hear that bird sing for him. But he couldn't forget the Christmas tree in the dumpster. It had made such a terrible thump when it landed, as if he'd thrown a boy in that icy steel box. A few more branches had broken. Dead brown needles had scattered. Its bent trunk had looked so pitiful under the floodlights. "I guess I threw myself in there too," he whispered. And that's when he settled his tab and wished the bartender a Merry Christmas. As he stood, he jingled the keys to the tree lot in his pocket. He walked out the door into the dark, and he almost seemed to be smiling. New Orleans stories often end in this manner. Bad news, soon forgotten. A big city moves from one last thing to another. The last tree on the lot, the last customer at the bar, the last hour before midnight, the last bus wheezing to a halt at a dirty bus shelter next to a palm tree. The boy's mother came down the bus steps wearily. She wished the driver a happy holiday and walked toward home with a small bag of presents and the Christmas turkey her boss had given as a surprise. She was at the apartment house door when she heard footsteps behind her. A man in a stained red coverall panted across the parking lot from the nearby bar. He was waving something metallic. He started to shout, and her stomach plunged for an instant. "Don't worry, lady, it's Christmas," he said. And foolishly, she paused for him. She didn't rush to safety. She stood still and watched the wild-eyed man come to the doorstep. "You're going to be needing this too," he said. "The bartender didn't mind. He wants the boy to have it." The man handed her a golden 5-pointed star, the kind that sits atop beautiful trees in well-appointed houses, that shines for drunkards in barrooms, that lights the homes of the poor and glints in the eyes of children. It was the star of Christmas. It was the star of Christmas, and it meant nothing if it didn't shine in your heart. "Who are you?" the mother asked. "What's this about?" Before the man could answer, the apartment door opened behind her. Her boy poked his head out, his tousled hair backlit with light. He giggled. A sly smile spread from ear to ear. "Merry Christmas, Mama. Don't stand out there in the cold. I've got something nice to show you."